Hi, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of Green Rush Live, Pro Cannabis Media's regularly scheduled business of cannabis talk show that we do every Friday afternoon here at 4 o'clock to 6 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and every week we look for interesting people that we can feature at the top of the show, because we know once you have people watching the top of the show, they'll perhaps stick around and watch the rest of the show. So I'm so happy to welcome in Jessica Zambarano, Cara Crabb-Burnham, and Maggie Kinsella. And I'm so happy to see them all in one space, which is unbelievable that we got these three women to actually sit still and not be doing whatever they do in the cannabis space. Cara, first of all, I feel like I've known you for a while, since you were actually one of the first guests on the original In the Weeds with Jimmy Young in the studio back in 2018, Cara. I even remember the date and what you were doing. I'm not going to bring it up, but you do remember. Do you remember? It has to do with the fact that you were
2016?
2018.
Or 2018.
Yeah.
I was working with a lab.
Yes, you were, but you were also going through something personal. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, lots of 2018 was a great year for me, actually. Also, I believe you were there when I recorded with Joyce Gerber for the first time.
That's right. And the Canna Mom show is still going strong, and I'm very proud of Joyce for picking up what she learned here and has applied it beautifully and all that. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about NERCS, not to be confused with NERCS, okay? It's the Northeast Regional Cannabis Symposium. And I have to ask, what the hell is a symposium, Cara?
A symposium is a convivial discussion after great libations.
Aha! That second part is what freaked me out a little bit there. No, I get it. And you brought in.
That's what Webster said. It's a discussion though. It's a two-way conversation. It's not a panel. It's with people talking at you. It's not there to sit necessarily. There's not going to be very many specific training. It's about a conversation that needs to happen amongst the workforce for the benefit of the operators.
Gotcha. And my goodness, here we are. This is a Massachusetts-centered program. So we have we do have an event in the greater Boston area. Why don't you actually, Maggie, why don't you tell us when the symposium is, when the dates are, how people can find out about it right off the top, so we get that out of the way. And then we can talk about the state of the cannabis industry in Massachusetts.
Yes, it is Wednesday and Thursday, August 30th and 31st at the DCU Center in Worcester. You can check out all of that information on our website, nercsymposium.com. There's surveys on there for employees to take.
Anonymous.
Feedback. They are anonymous. We have different engagement bundles, so you can send your staff. We have sponsorship available. We really want to see the industry and their workforce participate in this event.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I do enjoy going to those events because I really like the passion that is amongst everyone in this industry, whether you're in Massachusetts or you're in California or you're in Minnesota, the newest state to legalize and go adult use. But let's bring Jessica in, because I don't want to ignore her either. She is the event coordinator for this event. Am I right, Jessica?
Well, I'm actually a co-founder of NERCS along with Cara and Maggie, and we're the entire team. So we've done everything from build our deck and our website to setting up the events, sales, every aspect of this. It's the three of us here. So, and it's a pretty big event. We're expecting around 300 to 350 people for the 2 days at the DCU Center. So
that's great. Yeah. And it's only 22 minutes away from where I am right now, the world headquarters of Clinton, Mass. So I'm sure I'll be covering it for Weed Talk News, because I'm so proud of that news show that we do. What was that? What was that, Cara?
Fantastic.
Okay. I got it. I got you. All right. So we've definitely set this up a little bit, but I'd like Cara, because I know you are, out of the three of you, you're the most opinionated. I don't think that's going to upset either Maggie or Jessica.
I don't necessarily know that that's true.
Well, I do know.
I might just be the most loud with my opinions.
All right. So you are a consultant in the business. You've been in it gosh, it feels like you've been in cannabis for the last, what, 10 years almost? Because
We're actually creeping up on 15.
wow, fantastic. And so let's talk about what's going on in Massachusetts, because I am a little concerned, not just about the prices and all this stuff, but there's a lot of backstabbing going on. There's not a lot of feeling of collaboration that was definitely part of this, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. Now it's a little more cutthroat. Is that an accurate description of what you see in Massachusetts?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at the individual relationships. If you're talking about, 6 dispensaries, small retail facilities in a, half a mile small town, then there's going to be a lot of cutthroatedness there because, we're a relatively small market. But I was actually just doing, I was going through Google Maps and like finding all of the there's huge chunks of the state there's no one there. I mean, if you talk to pizza stores, if you talk to liquor stores, if you talk to whatever grocery stores, they target a community. I mean, nobody wants to drive 40 minutes to buy weed. Like, we got to like expand how many retails there are so that everybody's not clumped into these little pods. But if you're talking about the cultivation and the product manufacturing groups, I think that there's a ton of collaboration. I mean,
Yes.
we've got certain groups that are making highly bioavailable liposomal powders that can be added into tons of different kinds of products. So if you have a recipe, you can get a white label and you have a whole new product on the market. So I think it sort of depends on who you're talking to, who's cutthroat. And then, I think a bigger problem, honestly, is why are people not paying their bills?
Because we don't have any money. It's a very simple
But then you can't do business. Like we have
I
certain
know,
operators now
it's-
that are looking at 6-7 figures of debt of accounts receivable.
right. Oh, no,
Like,
no.
how do you operate on that?
It is very, very slow, and everybody's slow paying. And by the way, that's been pretty consistent over the last year. Can I say that?
It's just been getting
I
worse,
think
I
so.
think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no. Well, we're not in a crisis like the Cannabis Control Commission, but others,
But everybody keeps using that line about the whole industry. She wasn't talking about the whole industry. She was talking about the commission. She was talking about just
I
the
know-
commission.
I knew it was the commission.
They
and
can
even
be in
that-
crisis.
Even that is a story unto itself. But I don't like to point fingers at regulators because I think they have a very, very difficult job. It's, you can't please everybody all the time. I think Bob Dylan said that.
You
Anyway,
cannot.
Maggie, what's your impressions about what's going on in the Bay State as far as the cannabis space goes? And what is the biggest factor that still has to happen in this state? I think I know what the answer is. I'm kind of setting you up with that because I have a feeling you're going to say this. But what do you think the Massachusetts scene is like in cannabis right now?
Well, so admittedly, I feel like when comparing to myself to people who are in the scene, I'm kind of out of the scene right now because Coyote is still provisional. So I'm hearing more than actually experiencing it at this point, but it seems like chaotic. It seems like we need some workforce training and development, and from the bottom up, create that camaraderie and that those best practices that we can come up with together instead of compartmentalizing everything. And I feel like when you do that, you create those relationships in the industry that allow you to do better business. So, that would make things, I think, less chaotic, probably. I would hope so.
And Jessica is the event manager. JZ Marketing is her company. Jessica, you said you were one of the founders of NERCS. Am I right? Did I not hear that?
Yes.
How did that happen? And how did you end up in the event space?
Well, I've been in marketing for nearly 2 decades now. And I was with a vertically integrated operator for about 1.5 years. And shortly after I left there, I met Cara through the Metro West networking group.
Wait.
And
Eric's group?
yes, that's where I met Cara.
Oh,
And
man.
Cara told me about this vision that she had for this event and said, "Do you want to make it happen with me?" And I was like, I actually didn't have to think very long and hard about it. Having worked in the industry myself, there's a lot of there's a lot that needs to happen to make this industry more professional, and honestly more livable for a lot of people, because I've heard so many stories across the industry about people who are being overworked or underpaid or working in conditions that are not healthy for them. And I think all of these things need to be addressed. So it kind of was impeccable timing, and something I could really get behind and work with Cara on help developing a better cannabis industry in the state.
So Cara, what can people expect once they show up at the DCU Center at the end of August? What are they going to get out of this NERCS symposium?
Well, so it'll be 2 days of highly interactive and participatory breakout sessions. So we'll do SWOT analyses on different departments or license types. We'll talk about regulations and how people who are working within them are affected by them, manage through them, find solutions. The cannabis industry worker is incredibly brilliant, incredibly patient, incredibly innovative, and I think there's a lot out there that we are not accessing by not having larger conversations with this cohort. So I think that they're going to make friends. I think they're going to laugh and have fun. I think they're going to share their brilliant ideas. And I think there's going to be a lot of catharsis of people going, you too? Nah, you too? And so, you're just going to have the conversation, have a very open conversation about what our challenges are and where our successes lie.
There you go. And exchange includes engagement. And that's the magic word in the media world these days is, did you engage with your audience? Well, you're creating something that is engaging. So you would think that the whole thing is going to be really good to be there and exchange ideas and patterns and stories and all that stuff. And I will tell you this, everybody laughs at cannabis events because, a lot of them are under the influence of cannabis. I'm sorry. It's true.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not Maggie, though.
It's interesting, Jimmy, that you highlight the word engagement, because that's a big piece of this, and that's exactly why we're selling engagement bundles to licensed operators throughout the state. We wanted people to understand that this wasn't just something where you bought a ticket and sent your employee or sent your employee like for training purposes. And this wasn't an event where you're going to go and, meet your wholesale buyers and exhibit and all of that. This is an event that's built for the workforce, and we want every single person there to be engaged and contributing. And as a team, we're going to be collecting all of this information and turning it into the 2023 NERCS industry report. I love, maybe Maggie can talk about that because she's kind of heading that up for us.
It is my favorite part of the whole thing, as these ladies have heard me say a million times. I'm not ashamed of it. It is really the value add after the event of those who participated. So the companies that, get engagement bundles and send their teams, individuals from different departments, as many as they can send out. These employees up to mid-level managers will sit in a room together. They're going to establish some of the themes and situations that they've each gone through, how they've dealt with it, how they stayed in compliance. This is going to be a development of best practices of the workforce. So you're talking about the voice of the employee. And that is going to be credited to the companies that send their employees to participate as contributors to this best practices report. So I'm really excited about it. I didn't breathe through that whole thing because I wanted to get it out. It's my favorite part. So I think especially after the event, when we look at collectively what the workers and the people who are dealing with just like the day-to-day, what they've put together and what that's going to do for the whole space. I get, my brain explodes.
It's exciting, and it really embraces that idea of collaboration.
Yes.
I think we've had a number of people come on board. We're really excited for this event, but we also saw a number of places that weren't so excited, that were a little worried over sharing information. But we really do feel that collaboration beats competition every time. We want to bring people together. We don't want we really feel that some of these smaller, more curated brands that are wonderful brands and wonderful products, they're going to stand a better chance at succeeding long term in the industry if they have a network of others that they can kind of lean on and work with through the process.
So creating an
Yeah.
inner circle, if you will, for each one of the participants, maybe a goal of theirs, right? How can we find a better delivery service, or maybe there's a better container service, or there's a million different ancillary companies
Exactly.
that are involved in cannabis, and they're all looking to collaborate, not compete. But we do know that there's competition, and I think we also recognize the fact, as you guys talk about workforce development, you know what's going on in New York City, New York State, soon to be Illinois, and I'm talking about that word union. Are the employees of cannabis dispensaries, A, do you support that? B, what kind of an impact might that have on the industry, if any? I was an after SAG guy for 11 years and saved my job a couple of times. Let's not go there, but they did. And so where do you think a union like the the Food and Commercial Workers Union seems to be?
UFCW.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that unions serve a very important place in the workforce and in history, and going forward in very specific industries. I think they do a lot of good. I see NERCS as, on a parallel path up the mountain of employee happiness, this summit of the contented, happy to go to work employee. I see us on parallel paths. We have the same goals. We have the same goals as the unions. We want workers to be safe. So we only have 2 days, so we couldn't offer like a 30-hour OSHA training, but we can offer a training session on what you should expect out of your OSHA training. Do you even know what bullet points should be hit? Do you even know what things can never get left out? So we want to have that activity as one of our breakout sessions, so that they leave empowered when they go back to work. The next time they get a job with an OSHA training, they know they have to include ladders, because I have to use a ladder. I have to know where these chemicals are. I have to know how to use the chemicals. I have to know where the SDS sheets are. All of these pieces that a lot of times get looked over during training because you're so focused on the SOPs, loss, cleanliness. There's goes into a valuable cannabis employee. And further, we're not children. This is not some first job. Like, you're not hiring entry level people in cannabis. Most 21, most people have had a job by the age of 21, some kind of job, internship, volunteering. They've done something, and yet the level of professional respect that I think the cannabis employee deserves, from the trimmer to the CEO, from, facilities management to, our head cultivator. All these positions deserve professional respect. And that comes with benefits. That comes with 401ks. That comes with a living wage.
I can't wait to develop a business that has all that stuff, by the way.
Right? It would be amazing. I don't have employees because I can't offer those things.
That's right. And by the way, it is not easy to start a business in Massachusetts, because if you do start with full-time employees, W-2 employees, you have to provide health insurance for them.
Yes.
And it really is, first of all, I support that. I think it's great. I remember my family's business. They were talking about health insurance back in the 80s and 90s, for crying out loud. And it was still a big issue back then. But I do want to talk about another issue, not the unions this time. This time, I think I want to go towards, this is what happens when you get old and you start talking, and you want to talk about something specific, and then it just kind of floats away from you. And I'm not under the influence of anything, because I make sure that I'm not when I do these things, so I can be sharp and focused. And more times than not, I forget where I was going. But I'm going to come back to it. It's testing. Thank you very much. See, it's just about a 15-second delay. All right. I got it, guys. Give me some credit.
Came back to the station.
The testing labs are getting a lot of heat, if you will. And it's a challenge. Maggie, I'm going to go to you for this one because getting a consistent batch of whatever, edibles, concentrates, whatever it happens to be, is difficult to do under any circumstance. Now you add the over the shoulder, everybody's looking for you. Oh, I got to check to make sure that I've got this, this, and this. And how challenging is it, given the fact that the testing labs are set up and everybody can have different results? And, tell me about the challenges, because then I'm going to say something about testing in a minute. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I would say I think there's better ways we can do it when we look at things like batch sizes and the way that we are trying to gain an accurate sense of the potency. I think you have to take into consideration the different parts of the plant, what's absorbing the most UV in that development of trichome heads. And we're still learning quite a bit. So I think part of the challenge is that we're learning new things every day when it comes to the plant and its production and molecular structures, its uniqueness in the way that it comes off the plant and interacts with each human. And then you have certain things, like I would say with the testing, like, there's good and bad bacteria. So are we testing for things we shouldn't be testing for? Like when we talk about what's a safe product versus a pure product. I think
I'm gonna interrupt you and ask Cara a question right in the middle of this.
Well, I wanted to answer the question, but go ahead.
You could talk about this. I knew it would go long. The stuff that's happening is Massachusetts, when they started to do these regulations, they wanted to have the best tested weed out there. So they put like 20 million things that you have to test for. Did they overdo it, Cara?
Multi-tier question, so slow down.
Yes.
First of all, sample collection.
Yeah.
Sample collection. Like you can't let an operator choose their sample. Like that's crazy. It's totally crazy. And my computer's gonna die because I can't be in my house. Okay, it's okay. I got 12%. Okay, so sample collection, and we have to have somebody, a third party or the lab. I think the lab should do it. Other labs think the third party should do it, but somebody has to go into the facility and collect the 5 to 7 gram sample from the 15-pound batch. It cannot, that task alone changes the game, because then you can't choose your frostiest, prettiest, toppest tier cola tip and send that in as a representative sample of 15 pounds of marijuana, because that's just not flipping accurate at all. Like you can grow a cola that has an bud that has 40%. That's ridiculous, but wow, cool, you did that. But that's not 15 pounds. Like there's no way you hit 15 pounds across the board of that. That's not realistic. That's misrepresentation. And frankly, there's probably marketing laws against why you shouldn't be allowed to do that, because it's not actually accurate information. But like also we're not checking for water activity. So we don't actually know how moist it is. So as it dries out, the concentrate comes up. We're not doing that. That's not accurate. And we don't really, Massachusetts set up the regulations to test to get the cleanest weed. They have the lowest threshold for what's passable, not the most accurate testing. In 935 CMR 500 and 501, there is no scope for testing labs. It says lab must be ISO certified. That means you have to have any certification from an ISO 17025 compliance perspective. If you are ISO 17025 compliance, authorized or certified to scrub floors, then by regulation, you are allowed to test marijuana. They didn't put a scope in there. You have to be certified for pesticides. You have to be certified for microbiome. You have to be certified for heavy metals. They didn't include that. So, like, I don't know really exactly where the thoughts on that in the beginning.
That's right. So
there's room for improvement, and we're going to come up with great ideas.
There you go. And you said you're never going to drive 40 minutes to go to a dispensary. I disagree. 40 minutes to get your cannabis, because there are times 25 years ago that people would drive an hour to get an ounce from someone they trust in a parking lot that was not tested. So I, as a consumer and as a medical patient, I like the fact when I go into a dispensary, I know that it's been tested thoroughly. I don't care about the accuracy of it.
But we don't know because they don't do because the lab or third party does not do sample collection. There is no way to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the sample that was tested is part of even the batch that they're calling it from. Like there's no connection there because it's an easy way to skirt, and they do it by putting their toppest, frostiest bud in there.
There you go.
The random sample testing, it has to, that is the check and balance. If you're not doing that, you're not testing what is actually available on the shelves and gaining that variance of the representation that's there. Curran did
also, Chris Hidella from Proverde had an interesting perspective on this, and that is that there is no specification on what is considered THC. So they can add the THCA, the THCV, the other variants of THC, and they can add that together and call that part of the THC. So whether THCA, which converts at an 88% ratio to THC, that is the only thing that gets you high, is actually at 40%, or if it's a combination of everything else, I couldn't tell you because there's no specifications. So you can't do that. Like if you're doing nutrients, you can't say vitamin B is vitamin A.
Jimmy.
You have to testing.
There are people that will know.
It's been part of my life, definitely longer than most of you have been alive. Okay, so. And it was completely different back then. We know that the cannabis was not as strong. We know that it was illegal to possess. We know that it was definitely illegal to sell and distribute. And yet we still managed to find it. We still managed to use it. We still managed to learn about it. That's been the most fascinating thing for me since 2013 when the medical program came in, is the depth of information that's out there now on what you can do, what it does to you, what it does with the endocannabinoid system. People that have epilepsy. I have 2 news correspondents that have epilepsy, and they both swear that they wouldn't survive if they didn't have cannabis.
I have a friend who has the same thing. Yeah.
And I know someone that has Crohn's disease who takes it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, at this point, I think there's enough anecdotal evidence to debunk the Schedule 1. Okay.
Oh,
we
yeah.
should be able to debunk that. Maggie.
U.S. patent debunks that. The U.S. government patent debunks Schedule 1. We don't need anything else.
That's deep.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking. I know, but again, the government just wants money because that's what they do. They think they're representing what the people want, and the people don't want the government to make more money. Am I wrong on that or what? I mean, I think they make plenty of money. It's what they do with it. It's what everybody does with their money. That's the biggest challenge. I think we can all say that personally, professionally, business-wise, right? So it's always going to have something. Now, I'm going to go around the room, the Zoom room here, and I've heard that it is Schedule 3. That seems to be where the DOJ's investigation is going. Now, I'm not going to share my resources on that one. Is that something that you can live with, Cara?
No.
I knew that. I knew that. Hold the rest of your answer.
No.
Maggie?
It's a plant.
I know it's a plant.
You could
Maggie?
put sage on, are you going to put sage on there? Like, you're going to, lavender. Let's put lavender on Schedule 3 because it
Mugwort. I have a friend who went to an ecstatic dance the other night. They were consuming mugwort tea. Should we put that on the? Yeah.
Wait. What is mugwort? I've never
It's
even
an
heard
herb.
that word before.
It's a plant. It's a plant. An herb. Mugwort.
Does it get you high?
I'm not sure exactly what it does, but it does have some effect.
Look,
I mean, if there's terpenes, then,
Mhm.
things can happen.
I know what
Yeah.
terpenes do. Terpenes steer the cannabinoids. They decide which way it's going to go and all that.
It's
But-
part of consumer education on the retail end to know things like that.
Right. Or host a show and ask the right questions.
Yeah.
That's really how I learn most of the stuff I know and all that neat stuff. And probably don't realize that half the stuff I've learned is good. It's good. You can apply it to a million different people, but every single one of those people is going to have a different result from the cannabis that they consume, because every mammal is wired differently. Maggie, am I right?
You are absolutely correct.
There you go. That's all I like is reinforcement of some of my opinions. I really do love that. And I love all three of you. I really do. I really hope, by the way, Cara is the one who wants to do a women's talk show on cannabis. Am I right, Cara?
I do, but I gotta do it like Oprah style. Like I can't do it any smaller than that. So I don't know if it's gonna happen. You have to find like the right people to reach out to me because I'm not. I just want to be like Oprah.
All right,
Straight
all right.
to Oprah.
Not such a bad deal, by the way. She's doing pretty well for
Yeah,
herself.
goals, man.
Yeah, that's no. I get the goals. Maggie, last thoughts before we wrap up this section of Green Rush Live. Tell me, first of all, how's Coyote Cannabis doing? You've got a provisional license. What's next?
Yeah, we're under construction. So, we're in a moving timeline. It's going
Good.
to happen when it happens, and we're ready to shake stuff up.
And Jessica, marketing, events, what besides NERCS, or is that your focus right now? Are you working on anything else?
I do have my own marketing business, marketing and events. I will give a shout out to Orange Photonics. Speaking of testing, they created the Light Lab, which does in-house potency testing on 19 different cannabinoids. And they're one of my major clients right now. I help them get through 20 plus events across the country throughout the year, and I work on everything else for them. And I'm growing my business. I hired yesterday, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully I'll be able to take on another client or two soon. But for the rest of this month, it will primarily be NERCS for sure.
NERCS and more NERCS.
Yep.
Carol, last thoughts on this symposium. How good is this going to be? Are you in your mind, when you're a producer and event planner, you have what you expect, and then you have the reality when you get through it. But I'm guessing that you're going to be pretty thorough and check all those X's and dot those I's and neat stuff, and it's going to go off without a hitch.
This event has been in my head, I'd say, for about 2 years. I brought it to a couple different groups that I've worked with, and I just decided, gotta do it. I just gotta do it. Just have to do it. So we're doing it. It's happening.
Where can they get tickets again? Give us the website and all that neat stuff. Give a plug. Ready, go.
www.nercsymposium.com, and you can go to the sponsor page and see all of our sponsors. You can get a sponsorship. You can buy tickets through our Eventbrite page. You can fill out our anonymous survey. There's actually two. There's one for the employees. There's one for regulators, legislators, and police. And we would just really, love for everybody to come out and talk to us. We're just 2 days of talking, man.
2 days of talking, and for those of us who've made a living talking our whole lives, everybody, I should be looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I thank all three of you for really whatever you were doing today. It was great that you were able to coordinate this call and get this thing done live on Green Rush. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back on the other side with more of Green Rush Live. Don't go away.